I enjoy board games, and if I sound a little odd, I'm recovering from a pretty nasty cold. But ended up with a fair collection of them, and there's still some that I'd like to collect. I've got some of the sort of classics and some fairly modern stuff, complicated role playing and very simple abstract games. One time or another, I sort of prefer the abstracts, and I'm particularly interested in a lot of ancient board games. I've got stuff like, of course, chess, shogi, which is the Japanese version of chess, Go, which I almost said the Chinese version of checkers, but it's not really. But it's a fun game. I'm like to get some of the real ancient Egyptian, like the Senet hounds and jackals. Get like Siga. Well, I've got a Mancala set. I like Mancala, but there are so many variations of rules in it that it's hard to find one that I really like playing. Um, One I do like is Hex. It was invented in the Netherlands, I believe. Very simple, straightforward game, but a lot of strategy. Very playable game. And then a lot of the old board war games, they've been pretty much replaced with like the online first-person shooters and whatnot. But they were great fun. And they got role-playing games. Of course, got Dungeons and Dragons. Got one of the early editions of the basic game. Then I also have several first editions of the advanced Dungeons and Dragons rules. And then GURPS. I like GURPS. It's so flexible. Very easy to play, but you can expand the rules as much as or as little as you want to. Let's see, what else have I got? Iskarth, that was an interesting one from years back. Role playing. I've got some of the Choose Your Own Adventure books of varying degrees of complexity, difficulty. That infantry combat was designed uh, for officers training for the army, but it's sort of a choose your own adventure style. Oh, here's one of my all-time favorite books, The Way to Play. It's got rules for just about every board game or card game or small game that you can ever imagine. And I spotted it in a library once, enjoyed the heck out of it, was looking for it for about 20 years, and finally, thanks to the internet, went on Bibliofind and found it in a used bookstore up in northern Arizona. But it's one of my all-time favorites. I really enjoy it. What else we got? Oh, I like some of the newer games, especially the ones that are really overproduced, like the HeroScape or Dark World, Hero Quest, where the pieces are way more intricate and uh, bigger and sculpted and just way more than you need for the game. But it's great fun. A lot of these I have not even played. It's hard to find people to play with, or a lot of times the rules are complicated enough you end up spending entirely too much time on the one game. So I like something I can just sort of throw together and play on short notice. Dungeon, that's a fun game. It takes a while to set up, but once you get it going, it's quick and easy. Arkham Horror, now that one, that's you're looking at a couple 4 hours of playtime on that, no matter what. And again, it's difficult to set up, but very intricate, interesting game, and it's a cooperative game where the players are playing against the game rather than each other for the most part. Robo Rally, that one's fun. Came with a bunch of little metal play pieces, little sculpted robots, and then the game board as you play it changes. So again, fairly intricate rules. And then I got one of those sort of generic sets. It's got the chess, the checkers, the pachisi, the backgammon, tic-tac-toe, all that good stuff. And then Risk and Monopoly, Boggle, and then some older games. I've got one of the old Grand Prix games, which was a board game. It was designed by a mathematician to simulate fairly complicated movement with very simple set of rules, and that's a lot of fun. Now that one, it's my dad's from back in the 1950s, and it's got the specs for the various sports cars of the 1950s. So you pick your car, and it gives you your braking and your acceleration and whatnot for Jaguar, Ferrari, or an MG, and then it's got tracks different of the old road courses. And I picked up sort of a newer version of the same thing, Speed Circuit by Avalon Hill, and it's an updated version. Rather than having specific automobiles, you design your car with with the wear factor, the braking, the acceleration. And then I also managed to pick up several different tracks. So I've got probably about a dozen road courses for that game. And it's all discontinued, so it's sort of a collector's item now. But and then I've got a lot of the old micro games. These things were a blast. They were dirt cheap, a couple of bucks a piece. GEV, one of my all-time favorites, and little pieces, little hex playboards. I got a number of those, and then some from different companies, not just the micro games. But those were what they used to call beer and pretzel games, because that was the mechanics were very simple on them, so you could pick them up in an afternoon, and so got a lot of playtime on those. You could teach somebody, get somebody to play it. You could play different games and have a blast with them, as opposed to some of these others that are just so complicated. Firepower, for one, very detailed war game, individual, man-to-man, squad tactics, whatnot. But it's the rule book is just so complicated that you have to devote entirely too much time to playing it. So you've got to find one or more people that are really interested in playing that, and then devote all your time to that instead of some of the other games. And then good old Dungeons and Dragons, one of the earlier role-playing games. And then the TSR produced a number of role-playing games, including Top Secret, which was spies, Gamma World, which was a sort of a futuristic post-Holocaust where you got to play all different mutants. You could be a radioactive panda bear with tentacles and psychic powers or whatever. But that was a fun game. But it was basically a variant on the Dungeons and Dragons rules. Now the Star Frontiers, that was fun. They simplified the rules considerably. So again, it makes it much easier to play, much easier to follow. And that was a future science fiction setting. It was great fun. Time Tripper was kind of neat, because that was your characters would go through time, and so you'd use the game board in different fashions, set it up for different future or past situations, and you've got your Vietnam veterans that fell through a time hole, and they've got to fight their way through back to the modern times, and that one, again, fairly simple mechanics, kind of quick and easy to throw together. Twilight 2000, that was post-Holocaust Europe, right after World War III, and you're playing, again, small military units that are trying to survive and fight their way across Europe and get home or whatever, fighting for gas and vehicles and weapons. And that one was great fun. We picked that one up when I was in the military, and we used to get together and play that evenings, afternoons. And again, it was fairly time consumptive, but we had enough of us interested in it, so we get games together for it. Again, so much of this stuff has been supplanted by the online gaming, the computer games, because the computers, of course, keep track of the rules, so you really don't have to pay any attention to it. And it's interesting how a computer with the same set of rules, because it runs through them so quickly, it changes the feel of a game entirely. The Dungeons and Dragons, if you play any of the computer game versions of it now, it doesn't feel at all like the old paper and pencil, because even though it's the same set of rules, the computer doesn't miss any of them. And it moves, again, it applies them so quickly that you got, man, I don't remember that critter being such a problem back when we were playing. Well, it was just the way we were playing it. But and I do have one collectible card game, Duel Masters. It was kind of fun. I never got into Magic the Gathering or any of those others, but that Duel Masters was kind of fun. I like that. But and up top there, I got a Nine Man's Morris game I made myself. And that's looking for a lot of these games, like Sega. I'd really like to get a Sega game, but a lot of them are just not available for sale. But of course, it's simple enough to make them. That's why I just have to take the time to go ahead and make up boards for them, and then put together some counters, some pieces. You can pick them up at. I had a little bag of glass beads or plastic beads or whatever. Yeah, there we go. You can use those for game pieces, or you can use rocks, or make nice wood ones, or print them up, or there's all kinds of fun stuff you can do. I got some cards. What else we got? Laser Battle. That was interesting. I used to do a thing when we were kids called Laser Maze with a pen and paper, and one guy would make a maze and plan a laser gun, and the other guy got to pick the direction of the laser, and the assumption was the maze was all mirrors, and so you try and do a ray tracing from the laser gun across all the mirrors, and if you got out, you won. If you didn't, if it came back and hit the laser gun, you lost. But this is sort of something similar that I spotted, and I just had to get it. It's got real little lasers, and you put up little mirrors and little prisms, and you block your opponent, and the idea is to get to the opponent's goal with these little with the laser beams. So it reminded me of Laser Maze, so I had to snap it up. I don't even know if the thing works. The batteries are probably long gone by now. Oh, and then of course got your polyhedral dice, I should say. The 20-sided, 12-sided, all the D&D guys are going to recognize those. I got two sets of those. But it's one of the few things I sort of collect. I mean, I've played a lot of them. Several of them I really enjoy playing. But yeah. I mean, that's my Go set. I didn't realize how big that particular set was when I got it. Um, the board's a bit small, and the stones are really small, and I have trouble. I've got arthritis, so I have trouble dealing with the small stones. I need to look for a bigger set with just larger stones, just a little easier to handle for me. But it's a good playable set. It's a nice hardwood board. And the stones, I'm assuming, are some kind of plastic. They don't feel like stone, but they're solid enough. Let's see what else I got. Yeah, GURPS. That supplanted all other role-playing games for me. And obviously, I haven't played any of these for a very long time, but collect the books. The books are great fun to go through, but it's a very simple set of rules, maybe 4 pages worth, and you're up and playing. And then everything else is expansions upon that. And again, you can play it in as much depth, as much complexity as you want to, or you can keep it dead simple. And it translates to science fiction or fantasy or modern times or just anything and everything. And I got to collecting the books more than playing the game because, again, the books were very well written, very interesting, and a lot of fun to go through. But yeah, that's my board games, and as I said, I enjoy them. Um, and I'm sort of on the lookout for them periodically, try and pick them up cheap. A couple of these are collector's items. Most of them aren't anymore. But they were fun when I was playing them, when I was getting them. And as I said, I'll have to watch for some of the real ancient ones. I have to be careful. I call them historical board games, but now that means board games that take place in some historical setting rather than being some sort of an antique. But yeah, I get the ancient board games. I gotta either really start digging around, try and buy some, or just buckle down, break out the router and some chunks of wood and start making boards and pieces. But yeah, that's my collection.